In the small, quiet town of Villisca, Iowa, life moved at a slow, peaceful pace. Families lived close to each other, often sharing moments at church or on the front porch. One family, the Moores, was deeply involved in the local community. The father, Josiah Moore, was a respected businessman, while his wife, Sarah, was known for her charity work. On the night of June 9, 1912, the Moore family invited two friends, the Stillinger sisters Lena and Ina, to spend the night. Everyone had settled into bed, unaware that their peaceful lives were about to be shattered in the most horrific way imaginable. The next morning, the house was eerily quiet. The Moore family was known to rise early, but when the neighbors noticed the absence of the usual morning hustle, they grew concerned. A neighbor, Lena Gerhardt, went over to the Moore house to check on the family. When she entered, she was horrified by what she found. The entire family, along with the Stillinger sisters, had been bludgeoned to death with an axe while they slept in their beds. The killer had struck each of them multiple times. The axe used in the murders was left at the scene, and there were no signs of forced entry, leading investigators to believe that the killer was likely someone the victims knew and trusted. But that's not all. The killer had also covered the mirrors in the house with bedsheets, and had turned on a nearby gas lamp, filling the house with a thick, suffocating odor. In addition, the killer had cleaned up the blood at the crime scene, and even sat down to eat in the house before fleeing, suggesting that the murder was premeditated. Sheriff B.J. McKinley and the local authorities arrived at the scene, but the investigation quickly ran into a wall. The town had no idea who could have committed such a brutal crime. There were no signs of a struggle, and the crime seemed to be methodical in its execution. Numerous theories emerged, but no one could definitively explain what had happened. A local suspect, Frank Jones, a wealthy businessman, was briefly considered a possible perpetrator. He had a history of bad blood with Josiah Moore over a business dispute, and some believed he may have been seeking revenge. However, there was no solid evidence to link Jones to the murders, and he was cleared of suspicion. Despite many leads and numerous interviews with locals, the case seemed to go nowhere. Over the years, the case gained national attention, and the Villisca axe murders became one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in American history. The Moore family's neighbor. Some believed that a neighbor of the Moores, J.B. Stoll, who had been in town the night of the murders, was involved in the crime. However, there was no concrete proof linking him to the killings. The cyclone theory. Another theory was that the killer may have been someone passing through town during a violent cyclone that occurred the same night. Some even suggested that the murderer was a traveling preacher who had been staying in the area, but no definitive evidence emerged. The serial killer theory. Some have speculated that the Villisca axe murders may have been committed by a serial killer who had also committed similar crimes in nearby towns. Investigators found other axe murders in different locations, with similarities to the Villisca crime scene, suggesting that the killer may have been traveling. To this day, the identity of the killer remains unknown. Theories range from a personal vendetta to the possibility of an opportunistic serial killer. Investigators were unable to link any one person to the crime, and despite numerous attempts, no arrest was made. The case remains unsolved, with few leads to follow. The Villisca axe murders shocked not only the town of Villisca but also the entire nation. The brutality of the killings and the mystery surrounding the crime captivated the public's imagination. Over the years, the case has been the subject of books, documentaries, and even investigations by paranormal enthusiasts who claim the house is haunted by the spirits of the victims. In the modern day, the Villisca axe murder house remains open to the public as a tourist attraction, where people can visit the scene of one of the most grisly murders in American history. The Villisca axe murders remain one of the most infamous unsolved crimes in America. Though many suspects were considered over the years, the killer's identity remains a mystery. As time passes, it's possible the case may never be solved. Yet for those who lived in Villisca, the memories of that tragic night continue to haunt them. The truth may be buried in the past, but the echoes of that night remain.